It's pretty late, but I did want to make this video real quick for a friend of mine who is very gifted but also very stubborn. It's to show you how to set your camera really for any room, but this is specifically for the Fuji X-T200. Right now you might see a couple of numbers below me and above me over here. That's because I'm using this external recorder. And it's basically just reflecting what I see on the screen here. So when I'm talking about settings and I start changing things, you see exactly what's going on. Now for starters, I'm recording in 4K, 24 frames per second, trying to follow the 180 shutter rule. So I'm setting my shutter speed to 1/50th of a second. And the kit lens, the fastest the kit lens goes, and when it's at its widest is 3.5. So right now, right over here, we're set to 3.5. First thing you want to do, this is assuming you have a light. I use these lights, the little lume cubes. They're my favorite lights in the world. I do have an Aperture, a professional light, Aperture 120D and a 300D Mark II, but those are a little overkill for most people, especially since they cost more than this camera does. So what I'm going to show you to do is how to actually light, or how to light your room, especially for beginners. And right now, you see the image quality really isn't all that great. It looks okay to the untrained eye, but I'm gonna show you what we're gonna do by setting the ISO, for starters, to expose for the background. So right now, I'm reaching in for my shortcut. 4,000 ISO is a lot. Typically, past 3,200, I'm not really too big of a fan of. So I personally, I have like a much darker aesthetic, and even this is too bright for me. I never have the room light on. I'm only showing this to you right now because I know most people will have the room light on since they don't have 40 lights around. But now, this looks good for me in the background, but you can see that I'm pretty dark here, so this is where we introduce our light. Now, if you have one light, you really only need one. You set it 45 degrees, just about away from the camera. You turn it on. And let's start with a common problem people have. They get really blown out and they don't understand why. And the reason is that you're in a manual mode and you have to kind of set the compensation yourself since the camera no longer does it automatically. So you lower it. You can use the, you see this thing over here? That's the exposure scale. You can use that to see if it would be any good. It's getting much better here. Play with the positioning of the light, play with the light output, maybe the height, until you get a much better image like you've got over here. I honestly would have this differently, but my place is a mess right now. And definitely no other point in time. So let's try to move this around just a bit. This is closer than I'd normally have it, but it'll work for now. Let's just hope it doesn't fall over. And now because I brought it closer, it's a little too bright. Still a little too bright. And yeah, let's just hold this down for a second. Oof. Now it's at 2000 ISO, which is honestly a lot of ISO, a lot of artificial light, but again, we're trying to expose to the background. Now you can see here, it looks a bit more cinematic. I can't position it properly. Let me move back a bit. And the light's okay, so now I get a little more light into the other eye. And I'm sorry I keep looking this way. I'm just not used to having a screen to the side. But now you see I'm properly lit, the background's properly lit. And if you have a second light, another one of these, for example, or if you have a ring light and then a smaller light, you can actually create some really nice contrast by setting this behind you, but same deal, make sure that it isn't super powerful. And then you see how putting this in the back and having it shine against me from behind, honestly, this is kind of washed out. Let's move this back a little more. Yeah, so now it creates this kind of depth back here. And really, lighting is the most important part of any type of video production or filmmaking because it controls the look of everything. Much more important than a lens. I wasted way too much money on lenses when I really should have just bought a $50 light. And you can see now the image looks a lot better. You could, if you wanted to, like, see how this eye's a little dark? If you wanted to bring this up, you could just put it there, but note how I'm now more flat, and really I do like to have the second light just to create that contrast there. Like you see now it's just a lot more 3D, and now it's gone. Now it's 3D. Now it's gone. Is this good content? I can't tell. But yeah, so leave this off to the side over here. If you want to get a little extra fancy, let me actually... So normally I prefer to have more control over the lights, so I will turn the lights off. And now you can see a bit more dimension. Would definitely have to adjust it. It's too dark. This would be fine with the aperture. I think it's a little too dark for these little lights. But these are my go-to lights when I'm traveling, and you can see that the aesthetic kind of works out. I mean, the shaping works out better here. Oof. And then you can do this thing if you're one of those people who's really into the orange and teal look. This is a neat little trick, actually. So these are RGB lights. They're all nowadays relatively inexpensive. You can get them for under $100 each. Little trick is to actually set them up in the background. That's the orange one. Now look, if you want to be a photography douchebag, you just got to keep two on the side like this. But for now, we'll set this one here against this wall and on all my stuff, and we'll set this one back here right this way. And you really don't need the, you actually don't need the, where'd my stuff go? Nope, get away from that. You don't need the blue lights. You actually would really just need to be able to adjust or put gels on the front lights here, but we'll get into that at another time. So you go into the manual white balance. You probably have it in auto white balance, and that's fine initially. Just scroll down until you get like a nice teal background. And with the assistance of the lights that are kind of teal now, you don't have to go down as far. Let's leave it at 3400K. And on these lights, and most lights that you can buy that are around these size, all you have to do is warm them up. The aperture light does the same thing. You can take it all the way down to like 3200K. Here's that one. And then let's get the contrasty one the same way. This is so extra for no reason. Lights are important. And again, contrast, flat, contrast, flat. So you put that back there, and boom, suddenly you've got that orange tan type look. You got the teal background. Probably a lot of echo here because I have absolutely no sound deadening or belongings in this room that are not metal and plastic. But yeah, that's a real quick lighting setup, and just to show you, once you actually turn the light on here, this is all going to go away. Yet another reason why I hate personally having the overhead lights there, although sometimes you can kind of put like a little curtain there to soften it. But yeah, so that's like a really quick lighting tutorial. Also just a little bit of fake color grading there, so you don't really have to do much in post. It makes life a lot easier when you already have a good base to work off of. And this is using the standard Provira color profile on the Fuji. I'm not editing anything in post. This is just what it looks like out of camera. You can probably saturate the teal a bit. You can saturate the orange a bit. I wouldn't recommend it too much on skin. But when you're in a darker room, when you have larger lights, feel free to do whatever it is you want. These lights, I'm not plugging them, they don't have like affiliate links or anything, but these are definitely my favorite lights because A, the stand is great, they last a very long time, and I really don't recommend you use them this way, but they do function as a power bank when you're in a pinch. So yeah, that's pretty much it. Now, I don't know how cinematic I look compared to everything else. God, I don't like this ISO. It's so bright. Yeah, that's better. That's more my style. This is a horrible video. I'm very well aware of that, but understand that this isn't really the best video in the world, but here we are, and here you are. If you have any specific questions when it comes to lighting or setting up like the basics on the X-T200 or any other camera, the fundamentals are exactly the same. The settings are generally going to be the same. It's just that this is like the button placement and the way you do the settings that's specific for the Fuji X-T200. Not even the X-T3, honestly. It's a lot easier on the X-T3, but this is supposed to be easier for entry-level people, and I'm clearly an old fart. Yeah, so if you have any questions, feel free to drop them in the comments below or shoot me a message on Instagram and I'll answer them in post form. If I get a lot of questions, I'll answer all of them in just one longer YouTube video, and that way you have something that's searchable, since Instagram is ephemeral, essentially, and absolute trash when it comes to looking up actual useful information. Till then, before I say actually one more time, catch you guys later.